What is up, space pirates? I am your captain, the chronically charismatic Dr. Disaster, and today we absolutely must discuss the continuing dismal performance of The Marvels in theaters. Now, for a long time, we have been warning Disney and Marvel Studios not to go down its current path.
Stop, don't come back.
How many times have you seen channels like this one analyzing the problems of the MCU and Disney as a whole? How many times have we told them to stop worrying about what a character's immutable characteristics are and start worrying about telling a story that we actually want to see? But these corporations, like Disney, are like hypochondriacs, convinced that they have a problem. They are convinced that the only way to fix this problem is to take their self-prescribed medicine.
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
But in reality, this medicine is like a super laxative or something. We kept telling them to stop drinking it, but they keep sucking it down like it's Kool-Aid.
1/2 teaspoon for fast, effective relief.
And now that they've taken too much, their bottom line is going to the shitter.
Do not go in there. Woo!
In this video, we are going to analyze the box office of the Marvels, aka the MCU's woke diarrhea mess, and we are going to have a laugh at the records that this thing is setting for biggest failure in the history of the MCU and the biggest failure in the history of comic book films. I can only thank the powers that be that I am not the one who has to try and clean up this dirty, nasty mess. Here's looking at you, Bob Iger. Okay, me hearties, make sure to hit the like button and help your captain out in order to win the fight against the evil algorithm monster. But now, in order to understand how bloody awful the Marvels is performing at the box office, let's have a peek at this article by Screen Rant. Its headline says, "The Marvels collapses at box office with record-breaking second weekend drop that's worse than Morbius." The new Marvel Cinematic Universe outing, The Marvels, has the worst Weekend 2 drop for any comic book movie, including the notorious Morbius.
Well, that's f***ing not good.
The Marvels has experienced an unprecedented Week 2 drop. The movie, which is a direct sequel to 2019's Captain Marvel, is the 33rd feature in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the third in Phase 5. The movie sees Captain Marvel's powers become entangled with Ms. Marvel and Monica Rambeau, forcing them to team up to take down a dangerous new threat. Now, before we go on, I am so glad that this article brings up the fact that this movie is actually a sequel to Captain Marvel, a movie which grossed over $1.1 billion at the box office. Back in 2019, the wokesters gleefully laughed as that movie soared at the box office, proclaiming victory in the war for entertainment. But I have been saying for a long time that this is a mirage. I have been saying that the tokenization presented by the MCU these days is a gimmick with steep diminishing returns. I have compared the woke weirdos who supported that movie to a swarm of locusts who swoop in, ruin something, and then move on to the next thing.
I've been saying it.
I've been saying it for 10 damn years. Ain't I been saying it, Miguel? Huh? I've been saying it.
Well, here's the proof that I knew what I was talking about. If 2019's Captain Marvel was such a beloved film, then why would we have seen such a steep drop-off with this movie? If people loved Brie Larson in that role so much, if they didn't actually hate her like so many of us are trying to tell you, then why would so many of the viewers of the first film avoid the second film?
I don't know. It's a mystery.
Because that movie wasn't supported by people who actually like comic books. It was supported by a bunch of people more interested in feminism and wokeness rather than comic books. Meaning, the franchise, Captain Marvel, has very few genuine fans. Anyhow, getting back to the article, it says, per Variety, the Marvel's box office has taken a huge hit in its second weekend. After earning the lowest opening weekend of the entire MCU, it has now grossed an additional $10.2 million at the domestic box office, a staggering drop of 79%. This is the worst weekend 2 drop for a comic book movie, even more than the 74% slump earned by the notorious Sony outing Morbius. I mean, heck, it's even worse than the infamous DC movie Steel, which was the previous record holder with a 78% drop-off in its second weekend. Though this box office result is grim, the Marvel's release comes at a time when the MCU is already experiencing diminishing returns both critically and commercially. Although the previous MCU movie Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 had a solid performance at the box office, the prior movie Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania previously posted the worst Weekend 2 drop of the franchise. That title had a slump of 69.9% following its considerably more solid opening weekend gross of $106.1 million. However, the new movie having both the worst opening and the worst drop simultaneously is probably not a good sign.
You think?
This gross was partially impacted by the fact that the Marvel's cast was unavailable to promote the movie in the lead-up to its release, which largely took place during the 2023 Screen Actors Guild strike as actors were fighting for fair pay. However, other MCU movies that were impacted by factors such as The Coof tended to post much better second weekend drops, like 2021's Black Widow, which only dropped 67.8%. And here it is, the excuses. It's always somebody else's fault. The fault never lies with these shitty creators. I mean, according to the people in the mainstream media, Disney has apparently just never produced a bad film. It has simply never happened. They've had bad results, of course, but that's always either market conditions or it's the fault of the fans. Usually, they blame the latter. And you know, that's what abusers do. These people are abusers. They are like the husband who beats his wife, always angrily blaming her for his misdeeds. It's her fault that he had to hit her, and that's what we get with these weasels. But in this analogy, the wife is finally leaving the abusive spouse for good. The fans are fed up, the fans are leaving, the fans are not coming back for this crap. Let's take a look at these daily numbers for the Marvels from its second weekend. According to Box Office Mojo, the Marvels made a pathetic $2,800,000 on Friday. It was shown at 4,030 theaters across the United States, meaning an average movie theater took in $694 in ticket sales on that day for that movie. Now, according to thenumbers.com, whose site I will leave a link for in the description, but according to that site, the average movie ticket price these days is $10.53. If we divide the 694 that theaters took in on average by the average ticket price, we can see that only about 66 people went to see this movie in each theater. That is not per showing, mind you. That is in the theater for the entire day. On Saturday, the movie took in $4,400,000. Using the same formula as before, we can see that the average theater only made $1,091 in ticket sales on the day, and 104 people went to see it at each theater. And on Sunday, the movie took in $3 million with a gross of $744 per theater, and approximately only 71 people saw it in each theater. Sometimes these numbers that we're dealing with just get to be so astronomical that it's hard to wrap my brain around them. Sometimes it's helpful for me to just look at something like this. This sort of information where we can see how many people went per theater really puts it all into perspective for me. People just aren't going to see this movie. These theaters have to be as empty as Brie Larson's brain. For comparison's sake, though, let's have a look at one of this film's contemporaries. Barbie was a commercial phenomenon this summer, taking in over $1.4 billion. Now, I would argue that it was because the movie studio made it into something that its target audience, females, actually wanted. I know there were a lot of people whining about that movie, but I have no problem with it. I'm just not interested in seeing it personally because it wasn't made for me, but I have no problem with its existence. But for perspective though, I just wanted to look at the amount of people who went to see Barbie in theaters on its second weekend. On Friday, July 28th, that film made $29,032,661 and was shown in 4,337 theaters. Each theater grossed a whopping $6,694, meaning 635 people went to see it in each theater. On Saturday, the 29th of July, 757 people ended up going to each theater, and on Sunday, the 30th, about 644 people went to that film in each theater. There is simply no comparison. Barbie was a film that resonated with its audience, whereas The Marvels is a film that doesn't have an audience. It resonates only with a tiny fraction of our total population. Now that fraction pretends to be much bigger and more influential than it is, but face it, Marvel, it's over. We have the high ground. Stop trying to fix what isn't broken. Your audience for the MCU is mostly male. You might not like it, but that's what we are. And guys don't want to see a musical number in their damn comic book movies. We tried to warn you, you didn't listen. This is what happens. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.